Today we're going to use this spring to make a fire. So yesterday I was hanging out with a group of Boy Scouts and they wanted me to show them how they used to start fires. So today that's what I thought would be a good thing to get on video. I'm going to make a flint and steel set, and we'll also make some char cloth to go along with it because that makes our lives a whole lot easier. Let's head to the shop and we'll see what happens. So before we get started, it's important to note that not just any piece of steel will really make a suitable striker for our flint and steel set. Really, we want something with a little carbon content. So usually I'll either use an old file or an old piece of spring, which is what I have here today, is an old piece of spring. So we'll chop a little loop off from that and we'll use that to forge out our striker. And after that we'll see if it works and we'll test it out. We'll make some char cloth and we'll see if we can't make a fire with it. This is a great project for blacksmiths who are starting out. Really what we're doing is we're doing the most basic parts of blacksmithing. It's a very easy project. It'll kind of show you how the metal moves, how it works, and you get an awesome conversation piece that you can use to start fires at the end. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. Now that the fire is good and hot, we'll put our ring in and we'll get that warmed up. I want it to glow a nice orange color. Sometimes you have to look back and see where you've been to really appreciate where you are in something. So this is really bringing me back to my roots as a blacksmith, and it's really cool. I've always loved history and living history and learning how people lived. So this project really brings me back to that and back to that old passion. Now we've got a nice straight bar of steel to work with. I've got one end tapered. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to taper the other end to match. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and work on the midsection, and then I'll twist up the handle parts. we go, there's our almost completed striker. Okay, so now we've got this pretty looking striker, but it's probably not going to do much for us yet. We need to actually heat treat this, much like we would heat treat a knife blade. We want it to be really, really hard. It's that hardness that's going to help that steel throw off sparks. And then I've got our handy dandy transmission fluid. I'll put it in the pan. That should do it. There, 10-15 minutes and I'll be able to test this thing out. In the meantime, I need to cook up some char cloth. So char cloth is very easy to make. You really only need 3 main ingredients. Ingredient number 1, a steel container with a removable top. And this top has a couple holes poked in it. Number 2, cloth. These are just some cotton pajamas that I ripped. I've already made a couple batches from this. I'm going to rip it into smaller pieces for the char cloth. A lot of times I'll use old ripped jeans that are beyond repair or this type of stuff. The key is it should be cotton. I always use 100% cotton fabric for char cloth. And the third ingredient is fire. So we'll throw it on the forge for a couple minutes and you just cook all the impurities out of the cloth until you have char cloth. I'm just going to cook this container until all the gases stop pouring out of it. What this char cloth is going to do is it's going to catch these sparks as we spark it off the striker, and it'll start to glow and it'll be hot, and it's going to make fire starting so much easier. Looks as though our smoke has pretty much stopped, so I'm going to grab this off from the fire. I'm going to put it in some water just to cool it off. There, now I'm just going to let that sit off to the side for a bit and rest. And it's very important to let that rest. If it's not fully cool, that char cloth could ignite when you pull the cover off. So we're just going to leave it covered until it's cool enough to handle by hand. Here we have our finished striker, and I'm going to go ahead and test it out while that char cloth is cooling off. So what I'm using is a piece of flint to get it started. And you can use quartz like this as well, but flint is really the best if you can get your hands on it. You just want a really good hard rock with some sharp edges on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to strike kind of a glancing blow off the edge of this striker. And what that's going to do is it's going to cut little pieces of steel off, and the force is going to shoot out sparks. You can see some of the sparks coming off from the striker, and you can see I've worn in the face, which is good. We want those rough marks because that's going to help those sparks to fly when it's roughed up like that. So now all that's left is to see if we can actually make a fire with this thing. See how that stuff turned out. If we pull it out, and that's perfect. That should catch a spark really, really nicely. We're going to test a piece out. You don't need much. Just one piece should do it if you have enough tinder. Okay, just to prove the concept, I've got some cedar shavings with a piece of char cloth on it. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get this going. I've got a little bit of tinder and a little bit of kindling ready to go. And I just want to make a small fire just to prove that this is possible. I won't lie, I'm a little bit rusty, but at least that goes to prove that you can get a fire started with just a piece of steel and a couple of rocks. Now, with some practice, you can do it easier. If I had some better flint rocks, it would make it go a little easier too, but it worked all the same and we got a fire out of it. So I would call that a good success for the day. Thanks for watching and continuing to support DeWall's Forge. And as always, with whatever you guys are doing, keep forging out.